Okay, I thank you all for sticking with me through all the ups and downs of Gorillagate. We have now filled out the board and unraveled the web of intrigue surrounding the deaths of Harambe and his family, the scheming and rivalry of the communists and globalists as they battle over our souls, and the attempts made to warn us through popular culture. But through it all, the most frequently asked question I've received is why? So let me explain exactly why. Aside from the obvious reason that the people of the world have a right to know what happened to Harambe and his family, what initially drew me to look into Gorillagate was the controversy surrounding Harambe's death.
I thought it was so beautiful to watch that, powerful, almost 500-pound gorilla, the way he dealt with that little boy.
And how it had completely missed the point. All right, first off, it's a reflection of how we have become so desensitized to human suffering that in this world rife with war, famine, pestilence, misery, and general unpleasantness, we would take the time out to grieve for a gorilla. And I know a few people weren't happy about Part 5 when I showed footage of Bantu's autopsy, and I warn you again that we have more gore inbound. You know the drill, and have 5 seconds to look away, but I urge you to stay. Not because it's something you need to see, but because it's something you've seen 100 times before. All right? We have seen just as bad, if not worse, on cigarette packs and anti-smoking ads that air during primetime TV and at the start of family movies. So at least I gave you a warning instead of just shoving it in your faces. And I even softened the focus on the images of Bantu to lessen the impact. Furthermore, I was just telling it like it is, as opposed to making the threats that this could be you in a few years. All right, it's safe for the rest of you to return. It's a sentiment shared by a lot of the general public I know that I don't care how the movie ends as long as the dog survives. But it goes much deeper than that too. In fact, let me tell you a little story about a friend of mine who works as a vet. One day he's telling me about this party he went to with a group of medical students. And just so you know, you'll find some of the most jaded people around working medical jobs. And you would have to be that way if you're going to be getting elbow deep in other people. And not in the fun way, mind you. So anyway, they're swapping horror stories about the things they've had to treat while they were on placement and having a good cringe about it. One of them even got out and passed around their phone with an image of a guy who had gotten his foot caught in a stump grinder. I'm told it looks like a piece of cauliflower. Now, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm stereotyping here. I doubt everyone who studies or practices medicine is like this. But regardless of their outlook, these people are doing great work helping people and saving lives, and I mean no disrespect to any of them. But the reason I tell you this story is because when I asked my friend the vet if he was able to compete with these stories, do you know what he said to me? He told me that he had to choose his very carefully because nobody wants to hear about animals getting hurt. Nobody. Not even these med students, who I'm sure could give even my jaded cynicism a run for its money. And it is ridiculous how people have so much more empathy for animals than their own kind. Not to sound speciesist or anything, I mean our flora and fauna do need to be protected, but we've got to look out for each other too. And I'll get back to the faults of society in just a moment, because now it's the mainstream fake news media's turn. All right, not only did these globalists try to sweep Gorillagate under the rug, but a very important detail that a lot of them just glossed over and reduced to a mere buzzword was endangered species. Let that sink in for a moment. One gorilla was shot in captivity while many more are dying in the wild. Gorillas are under serious threat from deforestation, poaching, and diseases. For example, a 2011 study that you can find in the peer-reviewed PLOS ONE journal estimated that a third of the world's gorilla population had been claimed by Ebola alone. Yet their plight was ignored by the media, who focused in on one victim as though it were an isolated incident. All right, and just for a comparison, when a human is shot, it raises a plethora of debates, with subjects ranging from gun control, police brutality, racial tensions, abuse of power, conflicting ideologies, violence in media and video games. And as we discuss the ways of preventing these incidents in the future, the victims' names fade into obscurity and are absorbed into the statistics. But when a gorilla is shot, was the popular hashtag Silverback Lives Matter? No, it was Justice for Harambe, or Dicks Out for Harambe. And the closest thing we had to any kind of debate was whether that mother should have kept a closer eye on her child, if the fence could have been higher, or why they didn't use tranquilizers. Everyone was fussing about how Harambe could have been saved, instead of how we could bring gorillas back from the brink of extinction. So nobody cares about them as a species, but as an individual, people care way more about a gorilla than they do for each other. And even if you don't believe in the Gorillagate conspiracy, there is still something deeply disturbing going on here. All right? And you might say the zookeepers cared more about the human child, but let's face it, Harambe's relatives weren't going to file any lawsuits. Or at least they couldn't without breaking cover. And, of course, I cannot speak for Cincinnati Zoo, nor could I blame them, because in that situation, they were damned if they did or didn't. And while many commentators missed the point, none blundered further off in the wrong direction than the hacktivist turned hack motivational speaker group Anonymous, when they launched Operation Harambe and declared war on the mother of the child who fell into the enclosure.
This situation could have been avoided if it weren't for the neglecting parenting skills of Michelle. It should also be known that Michelle is the administrator of a preschool in Cincinnati, Little Academy. We do not see Michelle as being a fit parent.
I mean, how was ruining this woman's life going to help the species, going to fight communism, or achieve anything even remotely productive? And does anybody remember when Anonymous used to actually mean something? I mean, look out, here comes Anonymous, said no one in the past 5 years. Ironic that they've been declaring more wars than the governments they claim to oppose. And to anyone who still believes in Anonymous, here's my advice. I know I'm not one of you because I show my face and I use my real name, but how about declaring war on Anonymous Official as well as other channels and pages like it? Because these self-absorbed sycophants with their heads up their own asses and delusions of grandeur are why people stopped taking you seriously. You people are well overdue for a good old-fashioned party purge. Cast down these self-appointed mouthpieces who have hijacked and perverted your movement in the names of their own egos, and go back to the shadows where you did the most good. Or at least that's my advice. Take it or leave it. And to the rest of you, do your own research before jumping on a bandwagon. I know Gorillagate may seem a bit far-fetched to some of you, but go back through the videos and you will see that every claim has been backed up. I have been referencing sources throughout for you to verify, and that's how you know I'm the real deal. If you read an article or watch a video that doesn't back up its claims, or uses vague or limited sources, it could be fake news. Trace its sources back as far as you can and see if they are legitimate. If there are none, then that's a definite red flag. Google the story before you hit the share button and check if any reputable publications have used the story, or tried Snopes.com. That's a pretty good one for debunking things. Because fake news has become such a problem because we have so many outlets and websites that put 2 + 2 together to make 5, and the unwashed masses just keep sharing, quoting, and circulating them without checking the math. And this is why I will not let you forget about Harambe, who I've just done this 6-part series on, or Joseph Kony, who left the country 6 years before the viral campaign to stop him, the Mayan calendar, which was like ours except much, much longer. To say the world ends in 2012 is like saying it ends in December, because that's when it reset. Or how about Harold Camping's Rapture that was first scheduled for 1994, then pushed back to March 21st, 2011, and then October 21st of the same year, at which point it is beyond me why the hell anyone was still listening to this guy. Or how about the Large Hadron Collider that would supposedly end the world by recreating the Big Bang in September 2008? Did it? Or the 6th of June, 2006. Give me a goddamn break here. I mean, I get it, the number of the beast, but that doesn't have 2 zeros or a 2 in it, you morons! And then there's Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. I mean, did anyone really believe that for a second? Let me tell you what weapons of mass destruction are. A deterrent. Weapons of mass destruction are the reason there has been no direct clash between America, Russia, or North Korea, and why there weren't any airstrikes over Libya until after Gaddafi gave up his nuclear program, which set this horrible precedent that surrendering your weapons of mass destruction will get you sodomized by a rebel bayonet. So good luck convincing the Kim dynasty to do the same. And this idea that we would invade a country because they have weapons of mass destruction is beyond delusional. And then there's the Y2 friggin' K. Hell, if I had $1 for every time the world was supposed to end, I wouldn't have to worry about the possibilities of this show ruining my life. Or this absurd notion that we should keep the rich rich in the hope that something other than piss will trickle down on the rest of us. Hey, 1%, if we had more money, we could buy more of your crap. Money does not adhere to the laws of gravity. It trickles up. And you should know all about that given the ridiculous percentage of it that you have. So this is why I'm going to keep digging up the past, why I am going to keep flogging these dead gorillas, and why I am going to keep going off like a broken record. It's in the hope that maybe someday somebody out there might actually learn something. So read between the headlines and do your own goddamn research. I'm Connor O'Loughlin, and this is Alternative Factors. If you can see or hear me right now, that means you have the whole world at your fingertips and there's nothing stopping you from doing a basic Google search. If you're somehow accessing this show without the internet, then go read a book or something. But most importantly, stay woke, people.